Imagine you had the missing key to solve a great mystery within your company's knowledge repository. Perhaps the cure to cancer or Alzheimer's or similar life-robbing disease. To what lengths would you go to find that key? We're from Medtronic and we're driven to find internal knowledge using the liquid network, i.e. the wisdom of the crowd, to tap knowledge that's within our repositories, within people's heads, and to make connections to advance the Medtronic mission. Medtronic is a global leader in medical technology, treating 70-plus conditions, offering solutions and services to address the healthcare, improve the healthcare system. And one of the most important metrics that our 85,000 employees focus on is how many lives are improved every second. And right now we're at 2 people every second, so it's very exciting. The Medtronic mission was written over 60 years ago, and it really does drive what we do, including this work that we've been doing for the past year. The second tenet of the mission, and particularly the section I've highlighted here, addresses knowledge management. And the Knowledge Center where we work lives and breathes this part of the mission. Now, I don't mean to sound trite and to suggest that curing Alzheimer's or cancer is an easy thing, but I do mean to highlight that if we only knew what we know, we could make an even larger impact for good on the world. So we built the Find portal to help surface knowledge and to connect knowledge workers within our company to address some of these difficult problems and to get to resources that aren't the most easy to use, but to try and get people connected to the information housed within them. And I'll turn it over to Mary to talk about the why around this initiative.
Industry statistics tell us things such as we hear that over half of companies can't find the information that they're looking for within an acceptable amount of time and using the resources people have. We hear stats saying that 3 out of 4 people can find information outside of their company more easily than inside their company. And certainly at our organization in the last few years, we have heard similar sentiments and people resonate with those sort of statistics. So we created what we call the Find portal for a host of reasons. We set out to help draw visibility to internal information and knowledge, the thinking being that if we can't locate our own resources easily, we cannot use them. We simply go without, and our decisions can be affected adversely. We wanted to reduce the time and frustration spent by people looking for information and knowledge, and we wanted to impact the experience of finding and involve employees, leveraging really what they know to help with this experience to enhance how current information is, how accurate it is, and ultimately to affect the flow of knowledge at the company. I'm showing you here initially a screen of the homepage of our Find portal, which is really an online directory, a collaborative service that helps people find resources fast. That's one of our goals. In a one-stop shop experience, creating the single source of truth and preventing people to have to look in all kinds of locations and sometimes still not find what they're looking for. About a year ago, we started off on this adventure, if you will, and we started out we conducted a knowledge management inventory across the organization. We did things like we identified about 800 vanity URLs that point to internal resources. We looked at a very popular A to Z list on our internet homepage. We looked at rich websites, and of course we curated our own resources in the Knowledge Center where we're from. And I'll be honest, last year at this same conference, I had a conversation, Nathan and I had a conversation with Stan Garfield, if you know Stan, and we were describing what we were working on. He's like, you know what, just go easy, pardon me. He said, just start with the top 50, the top 100. Don't, fret, just get started, put that stuff out there. So we started to identify what we thought were the top resources. And that was just an impetus for us to just really help define and move forward, starting to curate even more and more content beyond that. Right now we have about 1,000 resources that we've identified across our company. And our resources include things such as internet web pages, licensed databases, software, communities, even annual events that sometimes people have a hard time finding information about. We've also included informational records such as how-to records. How do I order business cards? How do I set up a printer? Sounding, these are very simple things, right? But if you think of a company 85,000 strong, and when it's time to order business cards and you don't know where to start, or you're having a problem setting up your printer, that's a lot of time. So we have those records set up right alongside those other records that are the very, core business sort of resources, if you will. Our staff is constantly looking for new content in all forms, company communications, online posts, presentations, and so on. What the portal is not, it is not a portal of documents at this point. We do not include private websites nor team sites, for example. It's really anything that the whole company can get into in terms of a resource, anything that they can access, I should say. Each record includes a description of the resource that we've written very carefully, using the same voice, using the same approach with how we describe these resources to help people find them. And we'll even include words that people tend to search on, maybe using the Medtronic jargon to help people find these things. We've also included an image at each record so the human eye can just quickly identify what that main page looks like. And we've also built in a number of features that I'll talk about in just a moment. But before we do that, we'd like to talk to you about the technology that we used.
So we've been advocating for years internally to build out an enterprise-wide search solution, the one ring to rule them all. Everything gets finished, everything's here, but the number of zeros after the $sign has always deterred us. And we decided to take this more of a grassroots approach, and in the absence of a big spend, find a way to move the needle to get work done. And so the Find portal that we've built is based on SharePoint Online. It's a search-driven application. We've customized the search template to create this cards display. Mary had a picture of it up a second ago. Each of those search templates, provides the thumbnail image, the pinning feature, and social capabilities, things that we custom developed to add into that search template capability. We're using the SharePoint managed metadata service to provide terms and taxonomy to classify and connect and make the records as robust as possible. And let's see, can I hop forward for a second, right? On the sidebar, we have these filters, and those are all connected to the terms in the term set. So we are using managed properties on content types, and you can ask me later about the specific pinnings if you'd like to. Behind the scenes, we got some SharePoint Designer-based workflows helping with governance and notifications and to handle comments, that sort of thing. One of the benefits of SharePoint Online, you could do this kind of idea with really any technology. We've chose SharePoint Online. It's one of the standards at our company. Mobile is pretty easy. It's mostly out of the box, responsive, works on devices pretty much without any work. We use this Office Patterns in Practice, PNP capability, jQuery, the SharePoint REST API to build out some of the additional social features that aren't out of the box. And I put up Node.js up here. This gets to our software development lifecycle, and it's greatly simplified by some Node plugins where we can make some change to a JavaScript file, save the file, Alt-Tab to our Chrome web browser, refresh the page, and it's already deployed in a testing mode for us to check it out and make sure it's working. And it's made working in this space a real delight. It's greatly simplified development. We're seeing really positive results and enthusiastic responses within our company. Our initial metrics indicate that about half of the Medtronic population has visited this Find portal, so it's a pretty substantial adoption in a short time.
So to give you a little lay of the land here of the page, employees, when they come here, can search for any word in any of the portal records. They can opt to browse, like Nathan said, the facets or the filters on the side, or they can combine the two. And so we see examples where, let's say someone puts in the word innovation, they can filter on the left to find out, well, which innovation tools are available just for that particular business or that particular function. They don't have to look through 50 records to find out maybe a tool that pertains to their particular job role. And I should mention that the default view of the results is relevance, and so it's been kind of fascinating to see how the company, the level of access per resource that the company is coming at. So, for example, during benefits campaign week, you see some of the benefits resources rise up to the top, for example. There's also a quick find. I just want to call it that particular facet on the left that we created, which pertains to those kind of questions that people tend to have again and again. We have a category, for example, under quick find, such as memberships or councils or awards, because people will say, well, what are all the councils that exist at the company, or what corporate memberships do we belong to? And there's never been a way to ever call that together. So we're hoping we're sharing or saving time for people to cluster all of that knowledge together now. Each record displays assigned keywords. You may not be able to see them far back, but on the left side of every card is our taxonomy from the Microsoft Term Store that Nathan mentioned. So people can, select innovation in some cases and find similar innovation records or conferences, what have you. We wanted Find to be socialized, very much so, because we've had a lot of success at the company with social engagement. We didn't want this to be another website. We wanted employees to feel like that they were part of the solution. So every record has a comment option and a like option. So employees are encouraged to talk about why they use that resource and how they use that resource. We also have a share feature, so employees can share particular records, or they can post links of these records on the Enterprise Social Network, for example. We've also added, if you notice the purple pin on the lower record there, we have a pinning capability for those of you that are familiar with Pinterest. Employees love this feature where they can pin specific resources that they use time and again to boards. And I'll tell you a little bit about boards in just a moment, but these are very, very popular. The boards can be shared with colleagues, by the way, too. So let's say somebody comes here, they do a search, they don't find what they're looking for. We very prominently on the right made sure that employees saw the message that says, can't find what you need. So we've listed the ability for people to post a question to the crowd. We've got a very good track record with an open environment, an open crowd sort of Q&A world. And so many times what people are looking for has never been documented. It's that knowledge in our heads that we know about in the KM world. So we really highly encourage people to post a question. Some people refrain from that or would rather not, which is fine. In some cases, we also make very obvious, contact us. Work with our staff, we'll help you find what you need. We want to make it very easy for them. They just fill out 2 questions. What do you need, and what have you already looked for? Really quick. So we're monitoring that throughout the day. We're also adding chat, and we have a phone number in place because we want to bring back that human experience of the reference desk, because we just don't have humans anymore and when we need help, it seems like. And we also have an option for employees to suggest new content. So this isn't just about us and our staff and our great website. We want to make sure that employees are playing a role too. So This is an example of a full record, and I realize the text is a little bit small for those in the back, but I just wanted to call out in the full record mode, we make sure to list resource contacts. We want to make sure employees know who is the person behind this information. And believe me, it's been a little hard to find out who these people are sometimes, but we don't want this to be an owner's thing. We've partnered with these resource owners. We've met with them in webinars. We've created a bit of a relationship that's growing more and more. And our message to them is we want to make sure your resources are visible. What can we do to help you do that? And let's play a role together to make sure your content is well represented and found easily. We also provide a resource support, which is a little more difficult to find too, but as we're going, we're adding more and more information. In some cases, a person's name. We have some cases where HR has said, we're getting a few too many questions, and so in that case, they've substituted a statement about how to submit a ticket to HR. As you can see in the lower right, I just kind of extended the record there, but we also provide visibility to employee comments. We really believe strongly in, as information is being added in these comments, we will either integrate that new information into the record from comments, or we may decide, no, we'll just keep that comment listed because there's some nice context there for other people to learn from. So people's names and date stamps are listed there. And we really encourage our resource owners to play a role in that comment area. They're all set up for automatic notification as well. And so very briefly, let me move along here. This is our alpha list of all of our resources that people really love. And I'll finish by showing you this ecosystem, if you will. The way that we look at it, employees are looking for new information all the time. They're seeking knowledge at the portal. They're feeding information right back into that portal that we keep alive. As knowledge curators, as our staff, we're helping people with their questions. We're managing the effort. We track things such as zero results reports. Every day we're tracking what are people actually looking for where they're not finding what they're looking for and feeding that right back into the portal too. And so the way we see it is it's a feedback loop that keeps this environment fresh. And our message to people and our employees is that this is our knowledge, our content, let's keep it fresh together.
Yeah, and then just combining this technology and this process really has been helping to advance our work and our mission. Thank you.
So, thanks so much. So while we swap out the laptops, let's just take one or two questions. There's a lady behind you. Yeah. Okay, hold on one second. I'm hoping that this is working.
I actually have two.
Make sure I'm plugged in so I don't.
Okay, is that better? Okay, I have two quick questions. The first one is, did you guys do your software development? You said you had some custom solutions in-house?
Yeah, we did all the work in-house.
Okay.
The question is, did we do the software development in-house or was it consultant?
Okay.
We did it all in-house.
Okay, the second question is, were you guys able to identify an ROI?
Okay.
Yes, we're still in the early stages of that. We are using metrics right now from SharePoint, and our effort's been in place for about 6 months. And we are looking at an analytics package to really determine that, and also looking at randomized surveys in the moment that people are using the survey or the tool to ask them that very question. Is this helpful or are you saving time? That's our real
So you weren't able to have any workforce reduction or anything like that from creating this solution?
No, that's not our goal.
Okay.
And for us, it's all about time. It's all about reducing time.
So let me just let me just hold the rest of the questions until after, because we have one more presentation from Intel, and then maybe both, the question will be applicable to both. So let me introduce you to Bram Wessel and Melinda Geist. Bram has more than a quarter of a century as a user researcher and information architect. Bram believes that technology should enable natural experiences for real people. Bram has developed human-centered information and experience strategies for high-impact brands such as Adobe, Amazon, Backcountry, the City of Seattle, Crate and Barrel, Disney, Expedia, etc. He's a tireless advocate for the information architecture and UX disciplines. Melinda is an award-winning experience design strategist at Intel with a passion for the art and science of digital marketing, and it is both an art and a science. A creative soul with a pragmatic mind, her commitment to creating lasting and adaptable solutions has been the driving force behind her approach to user experience and strategy development. Welcome, Bram and Melinda, and their Intel success story.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Melinda, and as you heard, I'm with Intel. And I became an accidental taxonomist back in 2016 when I was asked to jump in and help resolve a data quality issue resulting in reporting problems that we were having with our marketing channels at Intel. And I was fortunate enough to have strong executive support to develop what we're going to talk about as the Enterprise Marketing Taxonomy. But earlier this year, in 2018, the focus of this project has shifted from an enterprise marketing taxonomy to enterprise content management. So this, in turn, forced us to consider how to integrate search requirements into our enterprise information strategy. So the original impetus for creating the Enterprise Marketing Taxonomy, or what I'm going to refer to as the EMT, was purely data and reporting focused. Intel's executive team at the time wanted to know how our largest marketing campaigns were performing to business goals and across marketing channels. And by marketing channels, I'm referring to web, paid social, search engine marketing, relationship marketing, and social media. But to be honest with you, it took weeks, no less than 5 agencies and a mob of people at Intel to figure this out. And on top of that, the data was suspect, and it took 6 weeks, too late to really react and change the direction of a campaign. And this really, the crux of it was that our executives realized that despite having invested tens of millions of dollars in a best-of-breed marketing technology stack, we were actually handicapped in our ability to report on marketing performance, even across a single campaign. Well, we started working with Factor, and during our discovery phase with the Factor team, we mapped out our system and technology ecosystem, which you can see here. Now, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that was definitely the case here. I use this diagram many times to explain to management and our stakeholders really what the problem was.
So, my name is Bram Wessel, and as the bio mentioned, I'm an information architect. And I met Melinda when Intel hired my company Factor to help them create their enterprise taxonomies. So now if you squint at this diagram, which Melinda called the drunken bowl of spaghetti, you can see that it includes Adobe Search and Promote, which is Intel's search tool that they have installed. So we'll come back to that. It's important to point out that at this early stage of the project, that we needed to know what all the systems in the enterprise information ecosystem would be so we would be prepared when it came time to onboard them. Once we completed the exercise of mapping out all of the information ecosystem, that gave us a shared vision of a desired future state, and we could chart a course toward modeling a core set of information that would truly be an enterprise-wide asset for Intel. So Factor has a process for this, but every one of our situations is unique, and Intel was no different. So even though the basic principles are stable, our techniques and tactics may vary. In Intel's case, the doorway into building an enterprise taxonomy was the analytics and reporting challenge that Melinda mentioned. But in your case, it might be enterprise search, it might be product information, it might be some e-commerce need. The power of taking an approach like we did with Intel is that it's going to expose all of the capabilities, not just the one that you started with, expose the needs of all of them. So in assessment, that's where we examine the world as it exists so we can define the world as it should be. This means examining existing information assets closely, looking at analytics, looking at all the technologies in use to evaluate the current state of things. At that stage, the part of the problem we were trying to tackle involved analytics and reporting, but we still needed to involve Adobe Search and Promote in our technical assessment so we'd understand how data would have to flow between it and other systems of record, such as Adobe Experience Manager, which is the content management system there. We used this evaluation to create a roadmap where we defined the steps necessary to get from that current state to Intel's desired future state. And this isn't a technology roadmap, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. This is a capabilities roadmap. We ask ourselves, what are the capabilities that we need as an organization to manage all of our information assets at this enterprise level? The roadmap's really the linchpin, hard word to say, an enterprise-wide agenda that keeps us on course as we proceed to modeling and implementation. So once we reach the roadmap section, we could easily see where enterprise search might eventually fit into our roadmap, and we would already have a leg up on requirements. Once we've done our due diligence and validated our course of action, we move into modeling, where we got down to the difficult business of defining an information architecture that can serve the needs of this $2 billion a year marketing organization on every level. This is where we defined all the things and codified the laws of nature in Intel's information environment.
So to solve this initial challenge, we created a standardized information model and what we're referring to as the Enterprise Marketing Taxonomy. So after we had defined the information model and these enterprise level taxonomies needed to support reporting, we began onboarding systems one by one. Now, as we began onboarding our web CMS and digital asset management systems, it became pretty clear that we needed to apply the same enterprise level approach with an expanded information model that we could apply only to content. So Intel.com needs to work really hard. We have a lot of audiences that we support across both consumer and B2B. We have a very complex product ecosystem, and we have a lot of challenges with managing our content in a distributed manner across business units. Our search performance and content findability suffers due to lack of cohesive strategy for applying metadata to content. So what we did was we expanded what we had created for the Enterprise Marketing Taxonomy to build this accompanying Enterprise Content Taxonomy. Now, whereas the EMT was focused purely on data and reporting, the ECT, or Enterprise Content Taxonomy, is focused on external customer-facing needs and also internal content operational needs. So designing and implementing our Enterprise Content Taxonomy made it obvious that in order to address the problems that we had with content findability on Intel.com, we were going to have to pay particular attention to enterprise search. And the goal was to make sure the assets that we had invested in both the enterprise marketing taxonomy and the enterprise content taxonomy gave our search application the best chance of success.
So the way to build an enterprise taxonomy, and at Factor that's what we do, we've done a lot of them, that's going to be successful is you have to consider the information behavior and information needs of all of your users, whether those are external customers or whether they're internal users or staff. That way, no matter what capability you apply to it, you'll have the meaning embedded into that core taxonomy itself. Once we got to search, here are some of the decisions we needed to make, and here's how the enterprise taxonomies we created helped us make those decisions and make integration and onboarding easier. So first we ask ourselves, what is our information supply chain? Is it a game of telephone like this, or is it more coherent and rationalized? Data quality has downstream effects. When you start with good, clean values at the beginning, it leads to better results downstream. When you build an enterprise taxonomy based on user research, it truly reflects user mental models. When your taxonomy reflects user mental models and they are adapted to search, the search experience is much more likely to be meaningful. And meaning matters. From a content perspective, your system of meaning helps users find and orient themselves within the concepts expressed in your content. If product information is your challenge, it improves users' ability to find the right products, and as everybody knows, customers can't buy products that they can't find.
So even once you've defined the laws of nature and the meaning of all the things, you aren't done because it's constantly evolving and changing. The good news is you have this amazing learning tool called search. You can look at the search logs and use what you learn from them to continually refine and improve your base taxonomy. So another gap analysis that you can do is to compare your content taxonomy to improve your search rules to make sure that your taxonomy is leveraged as it should be to improve the results and the search experience overall for your customers.
That's right, and you can take that even further and create metrics for success in a more formalized gap analysis to create a process for continuous improvement of search performance and the search experience. Let me give you an example of how this feedback loop can produce better results. So once implemented in a content management tool such as AEM, metadata fields from the core enterprise taxonomies, those could appear as options for building search ranking rules, for example. That kind of reuse helps ensure that the values in your information supply chain stay in alignment. Another example, dynamic facets. They're great, but they can't be effective unless you have the metadata set up properly. So you have to have good, clean values at the content tag level. If content is well tagged, there could be areas of the site where it makes sense to improve enterprise taxonomy attributes as facets for narrowing search results. For example, in the EMT, the Enterprise Marketing Taxonomy, we had taxonomies for industry, company size, and partner type, and we could use those to improve the search experience with facets.
There are a number of things you need to consider when you're adapting an enterprise taxonomy to be used in search. And together they make up a set of what we have defined as the strategic requirements for enterprise search. They include things such as business rule, governance plans, approval and EOL processes, just like with your taxonomy. We're also creating a business rule decision tree to help us determine whether or not we should create a new search rule. And then you also have KPIs to help measure whether rules are meeting user and business goals. In the near future, we are looking at holistically incorporating our enterprise taxonomy across a broad set of rules and search platform capabilities areas. So these areas include ranking and cleaning rules, definitions, common phrases, dynamic facets, and also some good improvements to our autocomplete word lists. Now, what we've described here are just a few examples of the relationships between our content information model, our enterprise-level taxonomies, and effective search. And the capability to model the information that will drive the business internally and externally has become nothing less than a core corporate asset for us.
So in this era of programmatic and automated marketing, having a stable enterprise information model is essential not just for success, but even to be able to operate. This is true for any area of the discipline, not just search. An even larger point is that once you've defined your shared system of meaning, your core information assets that span the enterprise, it has a number of really good benefits for enterprise search. For example, it keeps search in alignment with the rest of the enterprise's information. It gives you a basis of meaning to build a search experience around. It gives you actual instruments like fields and metadata that you can use directly to configure search. It provides a way to conduct a gap analysis between search and taxonomy. It allows you to set up a feedback loop between search and user behavior and your enterprise information and the search experience. It allows you to measure the performance of tags and keywords. It allows you to set up a continuous improvement regime using the analytical inputs that you get from search behavior. It offers guidelines for search rule development and those things can often be tricky. It provides a governance framework that allows you to maintain quality of your search experience just as you maintain the quality of your user experience or your data. And it saves a ton of time. So as you consider this challenge in your organization, it's very important to realize that every organization's challenge is going to be unique. Organizations come in all shapes and sizes, and roadmaps are not one size fits all. All of the things we just described above, describing Intel's challenge, are going to be different for your organization.
So at Intel, as part of diving deep into our information layer, we discovered some excellent opportunities for improvements to our enterprise search capability that otherwise we probably would not have realized. Our ability to deliver these improvements is largely thanks to a sound enterprise information management strategy.
So just like Melinda did at Intel, the power is in your hands to identify your information supply chain and bring it into alignment. How can your enterprise search capability be improved by an enterprise approach to your information ecosystem? We'd really love to hear some insights in the question and answer. So thank you for your time, and if you want to follow up, here's how you can reach us. Thank you. Should we sit?
I guess.
Okay, so as we know, we've got a few more minutes here for questions and answers for Intel's. Let's start off.
Nailed the time.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I'm wondering, you mentioned for the enterprise marketing taxonomy that it's integrated into your content management system, or I guess my question is it integrated, how is it integrated, and how do you manage it along with the other taxonomies you have for the enterprise?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
That's a huge question.
Well, we manage our taxonomy and it's a model that allows us to have, I guess, what we would call a base taxonomy, and then subdomains that branch off of it and use a derivative of that base taxonomy, and we manage that in an ontology management system, Synaptica. And then we have an API integration between Synaptica and Adobe Experience Manager. And then we've got a governance process that is set up where we receive requests for taxonomy updates, and those go through a review, analysis, and approval process to ensure that we understand all the impacts across everything, not only just web, but also the paid media and social and the other channels as well. And then once those impacts are understood, they are are deployed through the API.
Right, and that's not just with the content management system, but there's API level integration with a variety of systems
Well,
in the ecosystem.
It's APIs, and then for some systems, we do consumption
Yep.
reports as well. So really taking a pragmatic approach to those integrations, because if we had to build an API for everything, honestly, we wouldn't have been able to deploy it fast enough.
Yeah.
My question is for you guys that did the MedTech thing. The idea of boards, I found that intriguing, right? And you didn't really get into the weeds on that very much. I kind of thought you might. So I'm curious, since you guys are in a Microsoft SharePoint online environment with that, were you able to utilize Delve in any way, or were you able to use capitalize on that modern search experience with the whole graph and so on?
So I'll try and repeat the question. Were we able to integrate Delve into the boards scenario?
Correct. She mentioned that it was more along the Pinterest model, and I know that Delve is in that model currently in that environment.
Yep. We're early, very early in our SharePoint and our Office 365 adoption. So Delve, we're one of the first sites in our company on SharePoint Online. So we haven't much in Delve yet, unfortunately. So we're working on moving profile data out to Delve, and I hope we can connect people to people that way, and people to the information resources that they own. I hadn't thought about using that in a pinning kind of fashion.
Yeah. And what are you using for your boards?
It's homebrew right now. Yep.
Great. Any other questions? Yeah.
For the Medtronics folks, do you have any data sources integrated that are not in SharePoint?
Have we integrated?
Like Documentum or anything like that?
We have a lot of data sources, and right now we did not integrate the data sources. We're pointing to them. We're like a map to those resources. We're not diving into searching Documentum or those kind of things. That is something that we've desired, but that has a price tag that we haven't been able to bridge that gap yet.
Someone else? Yeah.
This is for the Medtronics team. Taxonomy and data sources, specifically given that you're in the healthcare sector, how are you tagging for therapeutic area and indications? Is it an industry taxonomy that you're using?
So I'm not sure
Yeah,
that.
great question. I'll repeat the question. So you're asking, being in the healthcare sector, how, if we're taking for certain indications for health diseases and so forth in our work. And I can't recall the name of the taxonomy we first purchased, but what is it? Oh, WAND, yes, thank you. We first purchased WAND, I don't know, a year ago, with the hopes of it really solving some of that real granular tagging work, if you will, and honestly, it just didn't work for us. So we created our own taxonomy. We have not gotten really granular yet because we haven't had to get down to indications other than just at the disease level. And we're starting to do some high-level product taxonomy work, but we haven't delved. I think our layers of taxonomy are 4 up to 5. But yeah, we haven't gotten quite that granular because we haven't had to yet, if that helps.
So my question is, the pin options, the share, and the like options, do they just help the SharePoint Online search version, or is that something that's within the Enterprise?
The social capabilities, those were add-ons in our environment, custom, using SharePoint lists and workflows.
Can I talk to you after?
Absolutely.
I'd like to hear that. It's here. Anybody else? Questions? Well, again, I want to thank the thank the speakers for their presentations. They're going to be here for a while. We have another presentation in this room, and how many of you use Microsoft? And we have someone from Microsoft here, so stay tuned. And we'll see you back here at 11:15.